The ultimate villain of Hawkins, the monster we all know as Vecna, was actually created decades before 11 was even a whisper.
And it all started with a secret World War II experiment, one involving invisibility and pure electromagnetism.
This is a deep dive we just had to do because if you've been wondering how Henry Creel really became the conduit for the Upside Down, well, we finally have the official canon answers.
Yeah, we've pulled everything from the stage play, Stranger Things, The First Shadow, and it completely reframes the entire mythology.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission here is to distill those prequel details. We're talking the real, almost accidental source of Henry's powers.
The horrifying truth about Dr. Brenner's family origins, and we're going to try and build a simple hierarchy for all those confusing multidimensional threats.
Because this isn't just a simple backstory. This is a whole new understanding of Vecna, of Henry Creel, as, a deeply tragic victim, not the architect of all this evil.
What's really fascinating here is that the play just clearly establishes that the Mind Flayer was always the main entity.
So it was there first.
It predated Henry completely. His tragic life was just the ignition point for everything we see unfold over the 4 seasons.
So let's start at the beginning, the real beginning. We're going back to 1943 and this secret U.S. military mission, Project Rainbow.
This was their attempt to use electromagnetism to make the USS Eldridge invisible. And the source is concerned that for a brief, horrifying moment, it actually worked a little too well.
It didn't just vanish.
No. The ship was momentarily shifted into what the play calls Dimension X.
Dimension X, that's the first time we hear that name.
And it immediately introduced the threat. A Demogorgon appeared during that shift and killed the entire crew.
The entire crew?
All except for one survivor. The father of Dr. Martin Brenner.
Wait, what? Brenner's father was the original patient zero?
That's it. This dimensional interaction literally changed his blood type and infected him with what we now know as Mind Flayer particles.
So these particles are what, like a physical remnant of the breach? And that's what grants the psychic power? Is it like a radioactive infection?
That's a great way to put it. Think of it less like radiation and more like a microscopic crystallized consciousness, a literal piece of the Mind Flayer's ecosystem.
Wow.
And Brenner's father told his son everything before he died, which is what set Brenner on his life mission, continuing Project Rainbow. He was convinced he could exploit this new, terrifying realm.
So the blueprint for Hawkins' lab was basically drawn up decades before the lab even existed.
Exactly. Now, fast forward to 1959, Henry Creel's origin. Brenner, who's now completely obsessed, is doing research in Nevada.
Okay.
And they find a Russian spy who had somehow stolen a container of these extracted Mind Flayer particles.
The very same ones from Brenner's father.
The very same.
Yeah.
The spy is later found dead in a cave near Henry's home. And tragically, 8-year-old Henry Creel, just being a curious kid, wanders into that exact case.
Oh, no.
The residual particles infected him, just like Brenner's father, but the result was far, far more explosive.
It vanished. For 12 hours, right?
For 12 hours. And the key detail here is what happened during that time. He was pulled directly into Dimension X, and he met the Mind Flayer.
The actual Mind Flayer in its huge, terrifying spider form.
Already fully formed, just like we see in Season 3. And even though Henry immediately locked away that memory, it was a huge psychological defense mechanism, his personality just changed instantly.
He went from a normal kid to sullen, quiet.
And his psychic abilities just burst out, causing him to accidentally blind a schoolmate not long after.
The move to Hawkins was supposed to be a fresh start for the Creels, but it just put Henry right in the middle of all the characters we know.
Yeah, he was classmates with Joyce Hopper, Bob Newby, and even the parents of Mike, Lucas, and Dustin.
Hold on. So Joyce, who is basically the moral compass of the whole show, and Hopper, the protector of Hawkins, they both knew Henry Creel in high school.
They did.
That completely changes how we should view their ignorance in Season 1.
It really does. And crucially, he also met Patty Newby Bob's adopted sister. Patty became Henry's only friend and eventually his love interest. She was the one who encouraged his powers, telling him it was a gift. And she even asked him to use them to help find her real mother.
So she was his last link to, normalcy.
She was. But the Mind Flayer's influence wasn't just sitting there. It was active. Henry was frequently getting pulled into the void.
The psychic space.
Right, where the Mind Flayer was implanting these radical apocalyptic thoughts, manipulating his resentment towards his family. He starts unconsciously killing local pets.
Which is when everyone started suspecting his alcoholic father.
Exactly. And the whole thing reaches this devastating breaking point when Patty's father, who was investigating Henry, gets pulled into Dimension X himself.
He sees it.
He sees the Mind Flayer and its entire plan for Hawkins. Henry actually resists the Mind Flayer's control just enough to save him, but the man is blinded.
Mirroring the earlier victim, the schoolmate?
Precisely. And this is the event that lets Brenner connect all the dots. He uses the Russian spy's clues to track the phenomenon right to Henry.
So when Henry briefly opens a gate during a volatile moment, Brenner sees the potential.
And shockingly, with Henry's mother's agreement, he subjects the boy to this horrific physical and mental torture, trying to break his humanity just to exploit the power.
If Brenner knew Henry was just the conduit, not the source of the evil, that makes the cruelty of that torture it skyrockets.
He wasn't experimenting on a monster. He was trying to sever the Mind Flayer's connection to its most powerful anchor point.
The final catalyst, then, was Henry overhearing his mother planning to send him away for good.
That sense of betrayal, combined with the torture, it leads right to the massacre of his mother and sister that we know. But the torment wasn't over. Brenner kept pushing him, forcing him to kill an executed prisoner to just fully erase his humanity.
Make him pliable.
And Henry tries one last time to save himself. He escapes the lab, confronts Patty, the only person who ever saw the good in him.
But he can't fight it.
He finally, definitively, surrenders to the Mind Flayer's influence and attacks her. She survives, but she's hospitalized. And Henry is framed for all the murders, becoming Subject 001.
Ready to meet L 1 year later.
That whole sequence just completely recontextualizes every single flashback we've ever seen.
So now we have to understand the powers. All psychic power in Hawkins, Henry's, L's, Will's, and even Key's, it all traces back to those particles.
Or the contaminated blood derived from Henry. And the different strength levels all depend on how they receive that connection.
Okay, let's break down the connections maybe into roles. First, you have the hive mind conduit. That would be Vecna and Will.
Right, both were forcibly connected. Henry through the cave infection, Will through the Mind Flayer's direct transmission into his body.
Their powers are like the Mind Flayers.
Very similar. They're directly linked to the hive mind, and their strength actually increases the closer they are to that collective intelligence. They're basically conductors for its instructions.
Okay, then you have the pure conduit, 11.
She got Henry's blood in utero while her mother was pregnant and in the MK Ultra program. Brenner figured out that this early maternal exposure gave her the purest, most concentrated power. That's why she's the strongest.
Wait, hold on. If Elle has the purest power because she got the blood in utero, but Henry has the original particles, shouldn't he be the purest and strongest? Why is Elle stronger?
That is the critical distinction, and it's a vulnerability. Henry's the anchor, but he's also infected. He's a vessel for the hive mind.
I see.
Elle's strength comes from the purity of the power, which is untouched by the hive mind itself. She operates as a single powerful entity and completely lacks that psychic connection that binds Vecna and Will.
So Elle can't actually communicate with Will or Henry psychically?
Not directly, no. It isolates her power, which is a massive strategic vulnerability for the good guys going into Season 5.
And finally, the anomaly, Key.
Key got Henry's blood when she was 5, so later than Elle. But she developed a totally unique power, creating illusions.
Which raises a big question. Is this some unknown mind flayer ability, like for psychological warfare, or is it just a fascinating bug in the transfer process that created a whole new power?
We don't know yet.
Okay, now let's tackle the dimensions. When you hear Dimension X, the upside down, hellscape, mindscape, it sounds, overwhelming.
It does, but the source material gives us a pretty clear, simple hierarchy that you can easily grasp.
And you really need to understand this hierarchy to get the sheer scale of the Mind Flayer's invasion plan. It's like a cosmic siege.
Starting with Dimension X, let's think of this as the kingdom.
The kingdom, I like that.
It's the original parallel space, the home of all Demogorgon life and the Mind Flayer's actual kingdom. It existed long before Elle or Henry.
And it first breached our world in 1943 during Project Rainbow.
Right. Its actual origin, though, why it even exists, is noted as the biggest unresolved mystery in the entire series canon.
Okay, next up, the one we all know, the Upside Down. You're calling this the screenshot.
Exactly. It's an intermediate zone, an exact replica of Hawkins, created when Elle accidentally touched a Demogorgon, which was still in Dimension X, while she was using her power in the Void.
And that beautifully explains why time has stopped there. It's literally a screenshot of Hawkins from the moment she made that contact.
Which was 2 years before Nancy noticed it in Season 1. The creatures and the vines, they all migrated from Dimension X, turning the Upside Down into the Mind Flayer's main invasion route.
It's contamination zone.
Yeah. Then there's Hellscape. This is the intermediary defense.
This is where Henry was sent after Elle beat him in season 4.
Think of it like a dimensional border patrol. It's a constantly lightning-struck barrier that's designed to stop alien entities from reaching Dimension X, a crucial defense.
But the Mind Flayer's prior connection to Henry let it pull him through anyway.
Exactly. It pulled him through and corrupted him into Vecna.
And finally, Mindscape, which is the trap.
This is the world Vecna builds in his victims' minds. That red, unsettling environment. It's a very effective tool, a mix of Dimension X scenery and Vecna's own terrifying memories used to trap and consume his prey.
So the grand plan, using this hierarchy, is terrifyingly simple.
The Upside Down is expanding, blurring the line with our world, letting creatures bypass the need for an intermediate dimension.
The ultimate goal is for the 2 dimensions to become 1.
Which is an existential threat to our reality.
Now, if we connect all this new canon information to the bigger picture, the play creates some pretty significant inconsistencies with the main series timeline.
Yeah, mostly concerning memory. It's highly problematic.
There are small plot holes, right? Like Ted and Karen Wheeler being high school classmates, which contradicts what Nancy said about their age difference.
And the fact that an 11 or 12-year-old Henry was somehow in high school, which feels like it was just done to link him to the established characters.
But the biggest issue, the most glaring contradiction, is the massive memory wipe.
It's huge. Joyce, Hopper, and Bob Newby all went to high school with Henry. They all saw the early devastation. The blinking lights, the dead pets, Patty's father being blinded.
They were the ones who suspected Henry's father of killing the pets.
Exactly. So this changes everything. When similar, highly specific things start happening again later.
Massive animal death and victims being blinded.
Why did none of them ever say the name Henry Creel or remember any of it? How does Hopper, investigating a missing boy in season 1, completely forget the last horrifying murder case in Hawkins involved the Creel family?
Joyce even says Hawkins has never experienced anything so horrible before season 1.
Despite living through the Creel massacre, the pet killings, the blinding, it suggests either an impossible collective memory loss from trauma or
something much more chilling.
A deeper reason. Maybe the Mind Flayer can actively suppress or erase memories from a whole town.
That's a huge potential clue for season 5. Let's move to theories then, based on these new facts that treat Henry as a victim. First, a potential redemption arc for Vecna.
Well, just like Elle locked away the memory of the lab massacre, Henry locked away meeting the Mind Flayer in the cave. It suggests his core human self is still in there, fighting.
And the most compelling theory is that Patty Newby, who survived and loved him, is the key.
Her reappearance could cause the psychological break needed for Henry to confront those locked-away memories, to finally realize he was being controlled from the start.
That internal conflict is critical because the Mind Flayer needs Henry as a vessel for its endgame.
The plan, as the play reveals, is to capture exactly 12 children. They're weak, fragile, and perfect psychic conductors.
And this is where Mr. Clark's weird wormhole lecture suddenly makes sense.
The 12 children are placed in a circle like a clock face or a deep hole to replicate the stable wormhole structures he taught the kids about. It's an engineered gateway.
To allow the Mind Flayer's entire conscious entity, not just fragments, to cross over.
The total invasion scenario.
There's also the fun number 20 theory. The number 20 keeps popping up in the D&D games, right?
The critical role, the time limits. It's hypothesized to be the sum of 11 for Elle, plus 8 for Key, plus 1 for Henry or Will.
So a psychic equation. Elle, Key, and Henry or Will have to combine their unique powers in a very specific way to defeat it.
Possibly using that exact configuration. But the most tragic theory about Henry's resistance is about the figure Mr. Wet, who Holly saw in the Mindscape Castle.
Right.
The theory is that Mr. Wet is Henry's remaining uncorrupted consciousness, the human part trapped inside Vecna.
And the evidence is small but powerful.
Henry deliberately gave Holly her favorite songs tape. That's a massive emotional vulnerability that runs completely counter to the Mind Flayer's mission.
And the most heartbreaking part of that theory is it suggests Henry chose Will as the first target in season 1 because he knew Joyce would fight relentlessly to save her son.
A demonstration of a mother's fierce love that Henry never got. It would give Will a chance to escape the psychic grip. He used the only love he ever witnessed to try and save someone else.
Wow. Okay, finally, let's talk about the Mind Flayer's true form.
The giant spider form Vecna created is just his interpretation, based on his own fears of spiders.
But since all the other D&D monsters have shown up,
The biggest one left from the original D&D books is the three-headed dragon or lizard monster, the Tisa Hydra. It's very possible that's the Mind Flayer's ancient true form, just waiting to cross through that stable gate.
So to recap the biggest takeaways from all this, Vecna is a tragic victim, a puppet for an ancient evil.
El's power is pure, but it's strategically disconnected from the hive mind.
And the four dimensions are all rapidly converging on our reality, with the upside down as the invasion highway.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Given that Joyce, Hopper, and Bob all knew Henry and saw the devastating signs of his powers back in high school, was their complete memory loss just a natural psychological block they all coincidentally shared?
Or did the Mind Flayer somehow actively erase Henry Creel from the collective memory of Hawkins to ensure its catastrophic plans could unfold decades later, without the town having the history it needed to fight back?
Something for you to chew on until Season 5 drops.
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end, and see you in the next video.